Yeah, I would like to welcome our first attendees to our webinar, and with the umbrella topic, as you could see, studying history in Germany. My name is Georgi. I'm the co-host / co-moderator of today's webinar. And this is a subject webinar, as you know, and during the subject webinars, as you also might already know, if you are frequently visiting our website. So we are not alone during these webinars. We have guests from German universities who will tell you about their specific study programs. And you have opportunity to ask your questions. It's not only just we presenting and you just listening. You also can ask the questions whenever you have any. You can see the Q&A button, which is in the bottom part of the Zoom interface. It's just next to the chat. You send us these questions. Some of the questions might be addressed already in the written form there. And also there will be a Q&A, live Q&A session after all the presentations are done. So today we have 2 presentations, which means that in around 40 minutes, we'll have a live Q&A session where your questions will be addressed by one of our guests. Okay, so this was the main information for you right now. Let me do a quick presentation from my side, and then I will invite our guests to take the floor. So, once again, agenda for today, we have guests from University of Potsdam, Christian Rick, and he will introduce to you study program MA International War Studies. And then we'll move to University of Bayreuth, Professor Dr. Sebastian Till-Braun. He will tell you about the MA program in History and Economics. So we will move to this interesting part, but for now, some boring part, maybe a little bit. So who is behind today's webinar? It is my German university, and we are Germany's largest database when it comes to English taught study programs. So you can find over 2,800 degree programs listed in our database, which are at least mostly taught in English. And many of them are taught in English only also. And our main goal is to assist international students in finding the fitting program for them and connecting them with the relevant study programs, right? So how we do that? First is our study finder. The first way of doing that, you can see a demo version of our study finder now on your screens. But when you go to our website, you click on the study finder section, you will be able to see the full version of our study finder with all of its filters. And you can find programs according not only location or according to discipline, according to fees, according to the rankings even you can find, according to your level of English, according to your scores in English language certificates, according to the mode of admission, and so on and so forth. Lots of filters which will make your life much easier in terms of finding the program quickly. We have over 150 articles on different topics regarding studying in Germany, a blog account, letter of motivation writing, CV writing, master studies, language requirements, uni assist, rankings, and so on and so forth. All of the topics, of course, which are relevant to studying in Germany. And we have also various webinars, numerous webinars per year. So, for example, we have approximately 150 webinars per year on different topics. It can be general topics like about visa, about generally studying in Germany with its scholarships and uni assist and so on and so forth. And we have also subject webinars, where we talk about specific subjects like the one that you're attending right now. Like it can be studying history in Germany, studying economics in Germany, studying biology in Germany, studying physics and so on. So yesterday we had also studying educational sciences in Germany. So yeah, all of these webinars that are already planned, they are available on our website, and you can sign up for these webinars for free, and of course also attend them for free. And our team is quite international. We are based in northern Germany, in Hamburg, but we are all over Germany and also all over the world. So yes, in our study finder, when you want to study in English in Germany, you can find numerous programs related to the discipline of history, both on bachelor and master's level, and you can see that most of them are in English only. When I say English only, in those cases, you do not need any knowledge of German to get into those programs and also to successfully complete them, which is also very important. And very nice opportunity for internationals who are not that good yet with German language, but want to experience this high quality education in German, right? In English. So for those who are not that familiar, for example, with what does it mean to study history in Germany, we also have specific subject pages for each subject, where you can find general information regarding the rankings, for example, of universities that are offering the degrees in these directions, general range of tuition fees and various requirements, and so on and so forth, which is a very nice first step for you to create for yourself a bigger picture of what does it mean to study this or that subject in Germany. Also, our suggestion is not be guided by sole principles when you are trying to find the best fitting program for you and best fitting university for you. Don't be guided only by fees. Don't choose universities only based on rankings or only based on cities when they are located. This is not a very correct approach, so to say. You have to combine all this together and go much further. You have to take into account your background, your interests, your career aspirations, and only then you'll be able to make the right choice in terms of the study program that you want to enroll in at. So also in Germany, there are two key types of universities. I would like to also mention that. First type is called Universität type of university. In English, it's just university. And University of Applied Sciences. And in German, it has some variations in namings. Fachhochschule, Hochschule are some of them, some of the most popular ones. And the key difference between these two in general is when we talk about Universität type of university, we are more talking generally about research and theory. And in case of University of Applied Sciences, we are more leaning towards application and practice in general. And yeah, last but not least, also when you're searching for the programs in our study finder, in addition to the aspect that I mentioned several minutes ago, our suggestion is, you don't have to, but we suggest you to play a bit with filters and with words, be a little bit more flexible, don't be too rigid with that. And when you're doing different combinations of wording and stuff, then you will be able to find all, basically, I would say most of the, if not all of the opportunities that Germany is able to offer you in the direction that you are interested in. And then once again, this is one of the most crucial steps. Making the right decision, making the right choice of the study program is one of the most crucial steps towards your successful career. Okay, that being said, let us now move to Potsdam, to University of Potsdam. We have Christian Rick with us, as I already mentioned. He will introduce to you their study program in International War Studies. This is the master's programs, and you can see the full name is International War Studies, double degree with University College Dublin, Ireland. I will switch to this screen. I hope you can see it all. Is it visible? Yeah, perfect. Then I will mute myself, and please, Christian, you can go ahead.
Hello, everybody. My name is Christian Rieck. I work at the Chair of Military History, or the Chair of War Studies, as we like to call it, at the University of Potsdam. The University of Potsdam is a research university, is a young university founded in 1991, and our program is also quite young, established in 2015 or so. We have a longer running program, an MA program in War and Conflict Studies that caters mostly to a German audience or German-speaking audience, but we also run International War Studies as an MA program, as a double degree in cooperation with University College Dublin, and that's the program we're going to talk about today. Georgi, if you could go on. Yeah, this is fine. So what do? We examine the causes, dynamics, contexts, and consequences of violent conflict at a national and international level. And that's important, since we're talking about studying history in Germany. This is a very it's a specific program, and it's also sort of a weird history program because it's interdisciplinary. So from an interdisciplinary perspective, and this means political science, international relations, but of course the historical sciences as well, and also sociology. From this perspective, we analyze how state, society, and the military interrelate from the beginning of the early modern period to the present day. Our particular strength lies in modern history, war and conflict in the 19th and especially the 20th century. So the chair I work for is run by 𝘱𝘢𝘪𝘳𝘵. Some of you might have heard of him, and his particular strength lies in the 20th century. So he's a historian of the world wars. So that's a particular focus that we have, but we can accommodate student interests in other regions and eras as well. So why is this a double degree? We've collaborated with UCD for quite a while now, and then we've decided to run this program as a double degree will make sort of a history program more attractive, but especially to cater to a more international audience. And this is fantastic. So while in the War and Conflict Studies program that caters to German-speaking audiences, we have 95% Germans. In this program, we have 95% of internationals. So this is great. It's a great student experience. Potsdam is a beautiful city. You can see here part of our campus, and we like to call it the most beautiful campus in Germany. So this is great. We sit sit in the World Heritage Site called Sanssouci Park. So it's full of palaces and a lot of history, especially military history. And so this is a really fantastic place to study war and conflict studies. Georgi, if you could go on. So what I'm going to talk to you today, and we can go into the rest of these issues in the Q&A session, so please don't be shy. I'll give you a run through the program of study and the list of modules, so 1 and 2, and then I'll talk to you about internships and practice years and academic exchange, 5 and 6. If you have more questions concerning sort of particular courses that we offer, I can give you an example. That will be number 4, and also number 7. This is our core course. It's a mandatory course that we run every winter semester, so you could sort of, like, I could show you what we talk about there. All right, let's go on. Next slide, please. Yes. Next slide. Yes, so international war studies. So how's this program structured? It's a 2-year program. You spend the first year at Potsdam and the second year at Dublin. I understand that cost of living is a problem for many students, so we're quite flexible in the second year. Usually we say, well, the first academic year has to be spent in Potsdam, so all students have sort of an apartment and everything. And then when they move to Dublin, they can decide whether they go for classes. This would be 2 trimesters, the first 2 trimesters, or if they want to spend the whole academic year in Dublin. So that's possible. We have some flexibility there, so you can go for 9 months, but you can also go for 3 months or 4 months. Right? So this flexibility has helped us in the past to help alleviate the cost of living crisis in Dublin. That is a city that's more expensive than Potsdam. All right, so what does it consist of? You see the 4-semester structure here. In the first semester, it's all mandatory courses. So you have the introductory course, we call a core course. Then you have a themes and methods course, and that basically is supposed to engage students in an interdisciplinary dialogue, right? Because we have roughly 50% of students come from the historical sciences, 40% come from the political sciences and international relations, and then there's a few others. There's some students from law, some students from with an economics background. That's also possible. But of course, we need a module, or we need a course, right, to engage them in a debate. Right? So this course is co-taught by myself and my colleague Matteo Scianna, and what we try to do there is sort of do half a semester of introduction into sort of military sources and military history and concepts and theories thereof, and then I do another half semester on mostly on the theories of international relations and how that connects to international conflict. Then we have a course run by 𝘱𝘢𝘳𝘵 from Napoleon to Hitler. It's our total war module, as we call it, and it's a mandatory course, but it's also quite a favorite of students. The road to total war, 1792 to 1945, and the main hypothesis here is that the total war in the Second World War is, of course, not a singular phenomenon, but it has a history, right? So since the Napoleonic Wars, we've seen a movement, a tendency, right, a development towards what we call total war. There's a totalization of war. There's a whole literature around this, and we'll introduce you to that in that module. So that's 15 ECTS points strong. And then you do in the second semester, so this all will be all mandatory courses have to be done in the first semester. In the second semester, you do 2 modules each. So this could be security policy, could be Middle East, could be Latin America, could be conflict in Africa. So I'll show you a list later, but you have to do 2 modules. This would equal 4 courses. So the workload, I think, is quite manageable, and this would conclude then the first year in Potsdam. The great thing about Potsdam University is, or another great thing about Potsdam University is that you can pick courses from the Berlin cluster of universities. That's no problem at all, and that's good because Freie Universität has a great Latin America program. It has also a great North American program, so if you want to focus on the US a bit more, and so we try to complement what's already on offer in Berlin. So this is great. It gives you a lot of choice. Then you move to Dublin in the second year. This would be roughly September of your first academic year. Right, so we start classes in mid-October, of year one, right? Then it goes on for 9 months, and then you have a summer break, and you write a Hausarbeit, so that's a seminar paper along that seminar paper. And then in September of year two, you would then go up to Dublin, and what you do there is you take 3 courses out of a list of usually 15 or so courses that Dublin offers. And and this is 10 points each, so you do 3 instead of 4, right? You did 4 courses in the second semester at Potsdam, you do 3 courses in the first and second trimester of Dublin, and then you move on to your MA thesis. And the MA thesis will be supervised by our colleagues in Dublin. In exceptional cases, you can also be supervised by our people here in Potsdam. And it's a 45-page MA thesis, right? So much shorter than in a traditional German program that usually has around 80 pages. So that might also be interesting to some of you. And this will give you 27 points, plus the 3 points of a research colloquium. That's the German tradition is that you meet MA students and PhD students and try and to sort of work on your hypotheses and debate and defend your research findings. This will be a research colloquium in the German understanding. In Dublin, the way it's run is that you meet with your supervisor 5 times, one-on-one. So that's quite intense, but this means that MA theses are very well supervised and usually also sort of do very well. And this will then conclude the program, 2 years. Georgi, could go on, please? Yes, just quickly, let me show you the list of modules, right, so that you know what I'm talking about. You see the mandatory modules up front, right? So the first ones here, Introduction to Military Studies, this will be the core course. Then you have the Total War module, you have Themes and Methods, you have a research colloquium, and then for the German program, you have a mandatory internship, right? For international war studies, this is not a mandatory module, but we offer the opportunity to international students also, right? So you can come and talk to me and talk to the professor, and we can do an internship orientation if you want. No problem at all. We can open a few doors and help you get some experience on the labor market, because that's important, of course, when you leave the program. So that's no problem at all. And then you have other modules, right? So they look a bit generic, right? That's because we try to find the module titles that are sort of large, that we can then put different courses into them, right? So the modules will look different every semester, but will have sort of the same name, right? So international history since the early 20th century, military and society after 1945, civil military relations in the social sciences. And then we have related study areas of military history. That's courses that you can take in Berlin, say, conflict, security and armed forces, historical and social science approaches, and security studies. So the idea here is that this will give you as much choice as possible, right? So we'll put usually 3 to 4 to 5 courses in these modules, and then you pick and choose what you're interested in, right? And it could be an introduction to conflict in the Cold War of the Middle East, say. It could be an introduction to conflict in Africa, right? I run a course on violence in Latin America. But then also you can do a traditional international relations course, right? You can also do a methods course if you're more interested in that. Or say if you're a quantitative guy, right? Then I would point you towards a quantitative program to do conflict studies in a more social scientific way. So there's many different sort of things you can do, right? You can focus on cyber policy, on traditional sort of NATO hardcore deterrence, security policy and defense, but you can also do sort of more historical stuff, right? Like looking at the world wars or even wars before that, and you can look at different regions. So we're trying to combine all of these things. And if you're interested in military sociology, the only university in Germany that still runs courses on military sociology is Potsdam. So that's another thing you can do. We have a specialized library that's not run by us, but it's run by the Military History Institute of the Bundeswehr, the German Armed Forces, and that's a close partner of ours, and they have the largest specialized library on military history. But of course, they also do social science, so security policy stuff. So that's also something that you can look into. We can also help you find an internship there. So that's you have many options, really. And then look at the Dublin modules here on the lower end of the table: modern history and politics, political violence in the 20th century, and war studies. And this would include courses like history of diplomacy, would include courses like civil wars. Robert Gerwart in Dublin runs a fantastic course on the history of civil wars, and a few others, right? And also you can also pick courses from the social science, political science department in Dublin, if you so wish, right? The focus in Dublin is a bit more on just sort of traditional military history, but you have options there too. And this is, in a nutshell, our interdisciplinary program, and we look forward to your applications. No, it's fine. You can close the. No, sorry. Yeah, fine. Go on. I can talk if you want about. Go on. Internships, right? So I said it's not mandatory for international war studies students, right? But if you take some time to organize it, and usually we say half a year, it's very easy in Germany to secure an internship position. That's important for international students because they're not used to this internship culture. But in Germany, all institutions offer internships. It's just a bit tricky sometimes to find the right person to talk to, but that's something that we can help you with. So for a German audience, I would say get a security clearance, and then we can get you into the Ministry of Defense. This is something that we cannot promise to international war studies students, right? But still, there's so many internship options in Berlin, say in political Berlin, ministries, museums, media, political foundations, think tanks, but also abroad, right? So I think this is also quite attractive. Yeah, that's fine. Next slide. Yeah, and this is also, it's new and interesting because what you can do is we offer this option to our students. You can do a practice year. Sometimes you need to speak German for it, or at least a certain level of German, but sometimes you don't. And practice years are offered by ministries and foundations, and also the Federal Academy of Security, say, BAX. They offer practice years, and this gives students an opportunity to do a full year of work, paid work. And we then allow students to sort of take a vacation semester, 2 vacation semesters, right? So you can take out a year if you apply for that program and you get it. And then you do the practice year, and then you come back into the program and finish the program 1 year later. So that's easy to do. And the practice year is fantastic because it gives you 12 months of work experience. It's not an internship. And they're offered once a year. So we will talk to you about how this works and where you should apply. And where these applications are published. But that's something that we should talk in the Q&A about. All right, thank you so much. Looking forward to your questions.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much, Christian, for your presentation. Let me jump into my presentation once again, and once again introduce Professor Dr. Sebastian Till-Braun from University of Bayreuth. You can see now we moved a bit more into the south of Germany, and Professor now will talk about, again, Master of Arts level program, but now in history and economics. So Professor, the floor is yours.
Thanks a lot. Let me share my screen. Okay. So I hope you can see my screen now. So my name is Sebastian Braun. I'm one of the study coordinators of this MA program in history and economics. So it's called History and Economics for a reason. So it's a lot about economic history, but you also have some history and some economics in it. So we've also study coordinators from the different disciplines, and my background is in economics. Right, so let me give you an overview of this program. So especially as an economist, I would argue that the discipline of economic history has been booming in recent years. If you look at the economic side, and the recent Nobel Prize awarded in 2023, it was awarded to 𝘱𝘢𝘪𝘥, a famous economic historian who worked a lot on gender wage gaps, for example, in the long run. So this is a booming discipline, and I think it has partly to do with recent crises, where there was the impression, at least, that we can learn from the past in how to deal with the present, and in particular with present crisis. So just think back to 2008, 2009, to the great financial crisis, and how people were reminded of, say, the Great Depression of the 1930s. So the question then arose, what can we learn from it? Can we learn something? Can we not? Starting with this debate, the discipline has been booming, especially in academic circles. That's not really reflected to some reason in degree programs. And here is where we come in. So the Master Program History and Economics offers an interdisciplinary education in history and economics, which at least in Germany is quite unique. As I said before, this is a program that is jointly organized by two departments, the history and economics department in Bayreuth. And what's important really is that in terms of the skills that you will learn, you will also learn the different methods that are used in the different disciplines. So for example, with me, you would do a lot of quantitative methods, statistics, things that you could call data science, and how you apply these methods to questions in economic history, quite hands-on, using statistical programs. And on the other hand, of course, you will also learn the more qualitative methods that you need in history. And of course, then the question is, how do you bring the two things together? The program is open to students with an undergraduate degree in either history or economics and related fields. Some of our students also have mixed background, I would say. Otherwise, I think maybe they're 50% maybe from the history side with a background in history, 40% in economics, and 10% mixed. So it's quite a mixture of people that come into these programs. And of course, what you also need is strong English language skills. Just to give you an overview of what you can expect from the program. So it's also a two-year program. There is the first module category. It's called Foundations of Economic History. So this is really economic history. And there are different topics. For example, I teach a module on growth and crisis. It's mostly on this big question in economic history. Why are some countries today so rich and others are poor? So I think a very exciting question. Then there's a second module on the evolution of the global economy, especially, I should say, with a focus also on the 19th and 20th century. So Christian talked about their focus. And we also have sort of a focus on the 19th and 20th century, economic history in the 19th and 20th century. There is some stuff on the time period before, say, 1800, but we do have this focus. Importantly, there are skill convergence modules. So depending on your background, of course, people arrive with a very heterogeneous set of skills into this program. And this is, of course, also a challenge. How do we bring them sort of to a similar level? And so what we do is, if you have a history background, you will have to take this introduction to economics. This is really just economics. It's not economic history. And an introduction to empirical methods. If you have an economics background, you will take modules Introduction to Economic History and Introduction to History. So that's the skill convergence part, which we can do, given it is a two-year program. And then there are these skills and methods courses. Advanced Empirical Economics is basically quantitative methods that you would also learn if you would just do an econ, a straight econ degree, which we, of course, also offer in Bayreuth. So this is quite advanced, I would say. And then we have more specialized method courses in economic history. And that's what I told you earlier. So I'm, for example, in this semester teaching this quantitative methods course in economic history, where we learn basically all the steps in the value chain of how to of producing a paper in quantitative economic history, finding data, analyzing data, processing data, creating nice maps in R, for example, using text as data, this kind of stuff. And on the other hand, you also will do a course on historical methods, more qualitative methods. There are specialization courses where you are basically very free in what you take. You can also take stuff from other departments. If you want to specialize more in quantitative economic history, then we do have additional courses. The same is true in qualitative economic history, but you could also just take something completely different that comes to your mind. What is, I think, also interesting is that we have this research colloquium, especially if you are interested in doing a PhD afterwards. So this is where we invite external researchers from other universities to come to Bayreuth, talk about their research. And in preparation to their talks, we have students presenting a paper that is out there in the field and is somehow related to what the external speaker talk about. So basically, in 1 week, there are students presenting a research paper, and then we discuss it in class. And then in the next week, we have an external speaker who gives the research talk. And that sort of brings you to the research frontier in economic history. And I think it's interesting in general, but also in particular, if you're interested in doing some PhD afterwards. We do have the internship here in this program as well. We have it here as a compulsory component, even though in principle you can typically also use internships that you have done before. And you have the master thesis at the end of the degree program, which you can take. Basically, it should be a topic in economic history, but you could also pick supervisors in economics, in history. But of course, most students take either sort of the study coordinator from the econ side of this program, that is me, or Jan Hesse, who is basically the study coordinator in the history department. That's an overview of the program. Let me just say a few things about the university. It's a young university funded in the 1970s. It's a medium-sized campus. Also, our president likes to talk about the most beautiful campus in Germany, at least, maybe in the world. So there we have something in common. Yeah, have a look at the photos, which one you like better. So approximately 12,500 students, relatively small. So this is a good university if you, like study programs in small groups, close personal contact to your lecturer, close networking. As you will see in a second, or I can show you now, this is the campus. And it's basically the different departments are very close to each other, which has, of course, some advantages. You also see a little bit of where you would go to. So Bayreuth is a smaller city, 70,000 inhabitants, a bit more. Located in beautiful but quite rural Upper Franconia, so it's great nature. If you like this, hiking, cycling, that's the kind of stuff. Also skiing in winter, cross-country skiing, and yeah, that's our campus. What else is here on the slides? So it's ranked among the top young universities in the Times Higher Education ranking. And I should say it has this long-standing emphasis on interdisciplinary programs. So in our econ department, for example, we also have this philosophy and economics program which is also now running for a long time. And so there is this history of close collaboration between the departments, which you have in Bayreuth. Okay, so I think that hopefully gives you a good overview of the program. Here's the final slide on our students. So we typically welcome 10 to 20 students. So that's the intake is only in the winter term. You can only apply now, basically, until mid-July. Typically 10 to 20 students. And as in Potsdam, in the program in Potsdam, we also have in this program a very international crowd. So these are our recent statistics on where the students come from. You see that there's not really any very geographic sort of focus here. The students come from all over the world, with Germans here 17% in this statistics. Right, I said before that some of our students, I would say maybe a quarter or a third, go on to do a PhD afterwards, but of course, there are a variety of career options available. Some go on to international companies, others to organizations. That's my overview, and I'm looking forward to your questions. Thanks.
Perfect. Thank you, Professor, for your overview and for your presentation. And let us now jump into the Q&A. Okay, so maybe a question for you. Let me start with you, Professor. Just a question of understanding is kind of, so you also teach R, right?
Yes, I mean, we have switched most of our statistic courses to R. There's a little bit, there's still one course in Stata that's not compulsory, and there is also a new course on Texas data, which is taught in Python. Most of it is in R. So, yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, so question for you, Christian. Now I'll read it out. Is there an opportunity to take a look at the post-Soviet space conflicts too?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We always run courses. It always means in the summer term, right? So the winter term is full of mandatory courses. And so we have more options and electives in the summer term. And we always run at least one course on the post-Soviet space. And that's because the war in Ukraine right now, of course, is very important. It has led to an important fundamental shift in German defense policy. So all of these issues we take up from both from a historical perspective, right? So you can look at the post-Soviet space from 1990 onwards, but you can also take a security course, a security policy course that talks about Zeitenwende, so the German watershed moment in security policy. You can do both.
Okay. Great. Thank you very much, Christian. And let me stay with you now, a bit more bureaucratic kind of question. I will combine there two questions like this. I remember. So the first question is what are the total fees in Potsdam and Dublin combined? So this is the two questions regarding that. And one also person added, how do I apply for this program?
Yes, of course. I should have mentioned that this is a fee-carrying program that's atypical for German universities. But since this is a double degree program that we run in collaboration with an Irish university, we have some tuition fees. And this is 7,500 euros for both years altogether for EU students. That's the EU rate. And for non-EU students, it's roughly 21,000 euros right now. And my Irish colleagues tell me that this is the cheapest MA program you can get because it's a lot cheaper than the US and the UK, right? But but it is a fee-carrying program. There's nothing I can do about it. Of course, you could apply. Then we'll help you apply to scholarships, right? So there's political foundations in Germany, and my German university also has sort of information on that. There's at least 13 big foundations you can apply to, but also you can sort of bring your own money or bring your own scholarship. That's no problem at all. But our university only has 2 scholarships every year for our best students. So if you do very well in the first year at Potsdam, we can give you 7,000 euros, and this will go then towards the tuition fee in Dublin. That's something that you can do, but it's only for the best 2 students.
Yeah. Okay, great. And Christian, just as a follow-up, so regarding the application, so students should apply it's fully online and they have to send documents for you. Okay.
Yes, thank you. It's a good question. Of course, because we run 2 websites, right? So if you go to the Potsdam website, you'll find a lot of information on the program, but all applications need to go through the Dublin website. And on both websites, we put a link so you can find it quite easily. You have to apply online only directly to UCD, and you can do this on a rolling basis. That's also atypical for German universities, where we usually in the summer then get all the applications, but here you can apply now if you want. The first applicants from the United States usually come in December, right? The first applications, and then the whole process runs till mid-July, end of July. We have 25 spots.
Okay.
So the earlier you apply, the better, but we try to keep a few spots open for later arrivals.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much, Christian. Professor Braun, a question for you. What are the key, also in these directions of a bit bureaucratic ones, what are the key application requirements for your program, like GPA, degree type, etc.? Thank you.
Yeah, let me just add to this R question, because I just question.
Yes.
So how fundamental should be my knowledge in R?
Yes.
So you don't need prior exposure to R. So that's what you will learn. So especially if you have a history degree program, you typically don't have R knowledge, and that's not a problem. Okay. Perfect. Yeah. So what are the requirements? I mean, the key requirement is your degree. So you need a bachelor's degree with a grade of good basically, or better, which is sort of equivalent to what we do in Bayreuth. So it's typically in economics history or philosophy and economics in Bayreuth, and basically we assess whether it is equivalent during the application process. But that's the most important bit. It's your degree. Then language proficiency, you need English level B2. That's also quite important, but these are the two most important requirements.
Okay, perfect.
If I could add to this quickly, because it's a question that comes up regularly. For our program, you need a C1, not a B2. It's also atypical for German programs. That's because you go up to Dublin, and it's just very difficult for you to write a good seminar paper and also to live in an English-speaking environment if you don't have C1.
Yeah, makes sense. Thank you. Thank you very much. In terms of, so Christian, it's for you. In terms of focus of material, I suppose it is modern history only, not ancient one, and especially ancient warfare. So I think you also mentioned it's more into 20th century and 19th also, right?
Yes. So, I mean, you can focus on, say, medieval warfare if you want to do that. You can also focus on the ancient world. That's no problem at all. We're part of a history department that consists of 10 chairs. So it's a fully equipped history department. So, of course, we have a chair on on medieval times and also on the ancient world. The problem for international students is that, of course, these chairs don't offer so many courses in English. Right, that's the bottleneck. But the core course includes one session on medieval warfare. It includes one session on the ancient worlds, and then, of course, we move more into the 18th, and 19th, and 20th century. Yeah, so that's the basis. But we've had students with interests in other eras too, and we can accommodate that. Of course, Potsdam can accommodate it, but then you can also look for courses in Berlin, and that gives you a lot of choice, and you should be able to do that here too.
Okay, thanks, Professor. What about university engagement activities like publications with the faculty? Is it possible? For example, a university journal with professor?
So having a joint publication is nothing that I would say is very common. So what happens from time to time is that you have you write your master thesis, and with one of us, and maybe out of this master thesis an idea develops, and then you would indeed do a joint publication. Another thing that is of course possible is that we offer student assistantship positions. Of course, again, it's a limited number of positions, but typically at each chair we have 2 at least. And there, of course, you can also engage in the research, or you contribute basically to the research activities that would that we do at the chairs, and that's also sort of research activity that you could do with the faculty. I hope that is what you do with
I think
the engagement activities.
Meets the expectations of the answer. Thank you very much. Christian, I don't know.
Yes, I mean, it's a good question. I know the students ask this question more and more. Exactly that question about co-authorships and papers, and I would say the same thing as Sebastian has just said. It's uncommon to publish sort of shorter pieces as collaborative pieces, and then of course in the German system where you have traditionally you have a very long MA thesis, you would have to rewrite the whole thing and then sort of condense it and make a paper out of it. But of course in our program, because we're more in the Anglo-Saxon tradition, and the supervision comes from Irish scholars, the MA thesis is much shorter, and it's much easier to make it into a journal paper, right? 45 pages, and a journal paper is usually, I don't know, 20 to 30, depends, right? So that's relatively easy to do, and supervisors there would then point you towards publication opportunities if they think it's good enough. Okay,
clear. And Christian, there's a very bureaucratic question. If you know in this regard anything, so with a double degree, is it doable? Is it double visa also and blocked account double, or how does it work?
I'm not sure about the blocked account. I don't think this is a requirement, even for non-EU students. What you need only one visa. Ireland and Germany are both in the Schengen area, right? So you just need a Schengen visa, but for Germany, because that is the country of entry. So you apply to a German embassy in your countries, and then you should be able to get it. We understand it's a bit difficult to get a Schengen visa depending on which country you're from. So we've had very good and very bad experiences. So this is something that you would have to talk to me before, or our international office during your application process if there's any problem at all. This is why we do rolling basis application. So if you apply early, you can apply to the visa early as well, and then we can help you to secure it. Yeah, but it's only one visa, should only be one blocked account.
Okay, great. Professor, how, I think it was your last slide, right, when you mentioned this. So the question is, how big are your classes, like number of students? You said like 10 to 20 or?
Yeah, typically the intake is 10 to 20. And sort of these compulsory modules, they are open to other students, say from economics, and typically 2 or 3 come, but not many more. So typically maybe then 50 to 20. The colloquium, that's basically open to all the students from all the 2 years, basically, because it's also a way to have people from the different years meet each other. We have dinner typically afterwards, or drinks. So there, of course, then we have a few more people, and then specialization courses there in the master program, they are typically small. That's typically what we have. The econ compulsory course, that's larger because it's also compulsory for econ students. There you have more people, let's say maybe 30, 40.
Okay, clear. And last question. Oh, Christian, you want to add something on that?
Yeah, because it's an important bit of information. Our intake is 20 to 25, usually closer to 25. So this means courses are really small. So students, applicants, potential applicants, you should always look for these kinds of programs, right? And Bayreuth is a good example also. The smaller the intake, the smaller the courses. And our courses usually are 5 to 7 students or participants strong, with the exception of the mandatory courses, right? Because of course that's a mandatory course for everyone. We run 2 programs in parallel, so you might get 35 students in the core course, right, or in the total war course, but in all the other courses in the seminars are much smaller.
Okay, clear. Great. Thank you very much, Christian. So Christian mentioned already the fees very clearly. And Professor, maybe I would like to ask you the same question. If I'm not mistaken, it's a tuition free, right? And only semester contribution it is for you, in your case.
In Bayreuth, yes. Yeah, no fees.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it is only semester contributions, dear attendees, where also the semester tickets are included as a price. This is, as Christian also mentioned, it's typical for Germany. And last question, we've just received it. I'm a law graduate from Pakistan and doing LLM at Freie University of Berlin. Now I want to study German history and side-by-side focus on German language. What is required further from me? So Mohammed, is this question to Potsdam or to Bayreuth? So, or to both? So are you asking about whether you qualify with your background? And maybe you could also give us more information about your bachelor, because I see you are doing now LLM, but what was your bachelor? Okay, yes, qualification. What is your bachelor? Just quickly to drop us. And yeah, so before you are doing that, let me ask our guests. So is there any opportunity to do any German language courses also in the institution for international students? Free or not free? So yeah, maybe Professor?
Yes, so first, yes, we have a language center, and you also need to do some language courses because in Bavaria, you need to get to an A1 level at the end of the first year of your studies. So that's a legal requirement, not at the time of entry, but after your first year. It's not very difficult. You will make it. And you can also have language courses as part of the specialization course. It's restricted only up to 2, but it's possible. Now with so A2 level is therefore fine, perfect. But the problem is really your degree program for our program, because we have both history and economics. So you need some background in either of the 2, because otherwise we would basically have to teach you both economics, the basics in economics, and history, and that's not really possible. So this is a strict requirement that there is some history and some economics in your undergraduate degree program.
Okay.
Otherwise, I'm afraid that's probably not the right program for you.
Okay. Okay, so just before Christian, before we move to you, we got some additional information from Mohammed. So it's a Bachelor of Law background, A2 in German and B2 in English. Yeah. So please, Christian, continue with your answer.
Yeah, I get this question too from law students, especially since the war in Ukraine started. Everybody now is interested in conflict and war. So yes, for the International War Studies program, the program I'm talking about today, it's no problem at all. So we've taken in lawyers before, so an LLB is fine. That's because, I mean, the module is the themes and skills module is interdisciplinary anyway, so they have to do both history, an introduction to history and introduction to political science anyways. So that's fine. Usually that's okay. Lawyers also have a good grasp on how sources work, and because it's also a hermeneutic discipline. So I think it's fine. For the other program that is much more competitive, yeah, we usually don't take in lawyers. But for international war studies, it's not a problem.
Okay, clear. Thank you very much to both of you.
Yeah, no German language requirement. That's also atypical. Yeah, we're not legally required to ask our students to speak in A1 in German. Yeah, but C1 English, no German.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much to our guests for their wonderful presentations and always clearly answering all of the questions and cleaning out the board. Thanks for attendees. Thanks for your interest and for your interesting questions as well. Hopefully you will make into one of those programs. And yeah, if you have any more follow-up questions after this webinar, you can get in touch with the representatives. They will help you out to clarify your doubts. If you have any general questions, like kind of visa questions or different scholarships questions, etc., etc. Also, you can read our sources first. They are for free. They are on the website, available for everyone. And also get in touch with us, of course. We are always happy also to support you in that regard. Thank you once again and have a nice rest of the day. Take care and bye-bye.